Norbert, good to speak to you again.
Great to see you. How's it going?
Welcome to the greenhouse.
Thank you. I saw some amazing pictures. Compliment. Great.
Thank you.
And we're really excited to talk to you.
Amazing.
And Matt and Joe have obviously not had a conversation with you. But one of the questions that they wanted to know was how many seats are in your original restaurant?
Well, we have two restaurants. We have the Three-Michelin star restaurant with around 35, and then you have this what you see in the back. This is the Alpine, which I built it 3 years ago, and this is open just for lunchtime because we're on 2,300 meters over the sea level.
Wow.
And there we do around 180 to 200.
And do you still do that zero waste?
This is zero waste, yes, absolutely.
So Norbert, I'll just explain. We've spoken, so we have know each other. So Joe and Matt are together, and we've worked together for many years in restaurants like Silo, and you know about Silo, you know about the Greenhouse past restaurants. And so I wanted to do this house as a project, as an experiment to try and see what we can actually achieve by growing everything where we live. And obviously you can't have almonds, or you can have almonds, but like the fruit, not you would never produce enough. The footprint is very small. It's 87 square meters. So Matt and Joe have been really limited with what they can use. A little bit, it's very similar to the process that you've gone through with your restaurant. I think that the past work that we've done with zero waste and trying to achieve zero waste in restaurants has really helped us and empowered us to be able to do this project.
I think this is for sure the future, and what we are, the whole team, and we are really proud of that we showed, especially young people, that you can do Three-Michelin star with the nature around you. And so this is very important, because then you have, in this, you maintain the culture. Because, you can do it everywhere. You can do it in Sicily, you can do it 3 stars in Calabria, you can do it in Sardinia, in Holland, just when you have places around you everywhere in the world. But I think this was the first time done also by Michelin. I think Michelin did a huge step there, to give 3 stars to something, to a restaurant like this, because with until 2007, when we get 2 stars, we were famous for foie gras. So we did every night around 90% of foie gras in the appetizer, and we were flying in 100 to 200 kilos of sea fish every week from everywhere in the world.
Yeah, wow.
So this is it was a big change. It was very, very risky in the beginning, but now people appreciate it. And in 2008, when we got the first star, then I was working always with local farmers, but the problem is always when you're a little bit. So a little bit of hybrid, you do, then you say, okay, now I'm putting on the classic dishes, but this I do new, and it doesn't work out, and then and I wrote the concept of Cook the Mountain in 2008, and then in 2010 my first son was born, and I said, no, we have to change now. And then I changed everything really in a very radical way, and we did in 2013 the first Cook the Mountain event with Virgilio, with Rodolfo, with Anna Ross, with Josean, and also Virgilio. They were not working on programs like this. And then from there on, really they started to, and we went on and on and on and on. And so, this was how we started.
Yeah. Can you explain to the audience what you mean by Cook the Mountain and what that means?
Well, we live on 1,600 meters over the sea level, and we decided to really use just the local products. And the idea started already long time ago when I was in the Congress of Matt in Nome, Copenhagen. It was around 16 or 17 years ago. I think it was the first or the second Congress, and there was one speaker was Hans Herr, and he's a Swiss, and he got a professor, and he got the Nobel Prize for alternative research. 2 or 3 years ago, and already there he said that to feed 7-8 billion people in long term, you can do it just with small farmers, because you cannot do it with monoculture. Because, I mean, we know today that we have still around 50 to 60 harvests left when we go on like this, with this rhythm, with this system, what we're doing today. And so there we really started to build up a circular economy, and we are using just farmers, and we know them, and we have today around 50 farmers. We go directly, we pay directly them, so there's no middleman. But the problem is, working without greenhouses, you have to work in altitude and you have to work in latitude. Because the problem with the altitude is when you are, as I said, 1,600 meters, you don't have any products in spring. And so that's why we had to go to Merano to have some products there, which is much lower, and nature wakes up 2 months before. And in latitude, because when you have everything on one side, then you have the problem with when you have a problem with bad weather, with hail, you're running out of products. So that's why you had to split it up. And yes, so we started, and now we're doing a lot of foraging. And so we did a book which came out a couple of months ago. You saw it. And this is all printed on apple paper, so it's all totally sustainable, and also on apple skin outside. And in this book, we described exactly what we are doing. So we divided the book in 4 seasons, which is nothing new, but we had for every season the to-do list. So what do I have to do in spring that I can work next winter? What do I have to do in summertime so that I can work next winter? The biggest work was really to start with biodiversity. So we are using today something between 450 to 550 different types of vegetables, different types of wild herbs and wild mushrooms, so that you have a spring carrot, a summer carrot, a fall carrot, and a winter carrot, which you can keep under the soil, under the snow, and then you can take it out when maybe up to February, or you preserve the products in the cellar, in the sand, like the farmers used to do in the old days. As you said before, there's nothing new. We just restarted with this program, and I think this is very important. And I think for the future, we have to show people how good in taste are different types of products. And the best thing is, when you follow nature, and nature gives you in every time of the year exactly the product what you need for in consistency, and especially also in color, because colors is very, very important. And so you have totally different colors in the season. You have spring with very light colors. So the first green, very light green, then summer, then with the strong colors, fall with yellow, yellow and brown, and then winter is very dark, because you use mostly vegetables from which you preserve. And I mean, fermentation was always a very important part, and so that's why it's all made on this. And just to say, with the 2 restaurants, as I said before, with 35 seats on one and with 100 on the other one, we are using around something between 800,000 products directly from the farmers, and we pay them directly. Wow. So they got much more money, because they got the money which usually a middleman got. And so it's much, much better to work for them, and they can plan much more, they can plan much better. And we do also, and it's mostly young families. And so this is why it's very good. And all of them work really with biodiversity. So, to plant, maybe you have 2 carrots on this side this year, then you have it on the other side next year. And so the fun thing is when you do, when you do testing when you do a test of the soil keeps the same consistency every year.
Because we're only cooking with what we're growing here, we're not growing any sugar cane, so we don't have any refined sugar. And I was wondering, what do you use for your desserts? Are you growing sugar, or do you use honey or agave or something different?
Sugar beets? Do you use sugar beets? Yeah.
Well, we use honey, but mostly we work with berries. And we had to change also the completely system of dessert. And so now we do a lot with cheese, with fresh cheese. And
See, we should get a cow.
but mostly the sugar we are producing it with how do you say it, with we used the fruit sugar. So like we had problems with plums a couple of years ago, and we didn't know what to do anymore because the farmer, the problem there is it's you have to be very flexible because we ordered plums and the farmer brought us in around 200 or 300 kilos of plums, because it's not that like in the old system of the restaurants, you call and you say, I need 1 kilo. No, this today 1 kilo, tomorrow 10 kilos, and then 200 kilos. And so you have all the products around and you have to work with them, because you cannot say to the farmer, hey, listen,
can you hold
sell it somewhere else or throw it away. And so we had the problem with the plums, and we didn't know what to do anymore with them, and we put them in the freezer. And then with Miele, with my sous chef, one day we said, okay, we have to do something with them. And then we started to fermentate them, and then we set them up like a tomato sauce, but without onions, without nothing, and it tastes like a tomato ketchup. And so now we're using those fermented plums as a tomato ketchup. We serve it to the kids, and kids love it because it's sweet. And the big difference is when you see 1 kilo of tomato ketchup, which you buy in the store, you have something between 400, it depends, 400 to 700 grams of white sugar in, and we don't have any sugar in it. So this is, you can really start to work on totally different, products, and so it's very interesting.
Yeah, we actually have been using a tuber called a tiger nut. So it grows, It's in Spain, it's horchata. We've been using that for milk, but it also is really sweet. So when you cook it, it thickens like a custard, and we use that to make ice cream, and then we also mill it into flour to make a tart, and that's how we've been sweetening things.
Okay.
So that's been the savior. Otherwise, we've had a few hairy times where we haven't known what to do.
Well, but this is always like this. When you start to closing doors, you open up other doors, because otherwise you don't do it because it's too easy. You say, okay, I have the sugar. Why should I think about to do it in a different way? But when you say, okay, no, we don't take any sugar. And so this happened to us. The more things we left away, the more new ideas came in, because you had to do something.
Yeah, and you get to eat twice as much because there's no sugar.
Yeah.
Do you think with the people, like your guests coming into the restaurant, do they understand, or how do they react with when they eat the food? Do they notice that it's different, because you're cooking differently? Do you think they pick up on it? Or, for us, we're trying to show that you can do this project and the food is still delicious, that you can grow food in your own environment and then still really yummy, but you don't have to sacrifice on flavor. Do you find that your guests feel the same?
Well, I think when we started, people were really not interested in this. And they really said, hey, stop this project, go back to the old dishes, go back to your signature dishes. And we said, no, we are going on with this. And there were also a lot of journalists and also some people from the Geats. They were telling us, hey, listen, watch out what you're doing, because you are also at risk of losing the stars. And I said, okay, well, I have 2 kids. And this is my responsibility to do something for them for the future. And so this was the reason why we went on. And now, but I must say now it's people understand it more and more and more. And I think especially now after this or in this pandemic changed a lot of thinking, and we have to be, and it showed us also that maybe we don't need so much. We can live in a different way, we can use it in a different way, and we can also think in a different way. The restaurant what you have on the back here, this is the Alpine, which we built it in 2017. This is completely sustainable. So we had a designer from this area, from Alto Adige, and he's married. His wife, she's from New Zealand, and I told when we were speaking with Martino, we said, "Hey, Martino, listen, I would like to have a restaurant, and I would like that you do it," because he did the project in London. I think it was 10 or 12 years ago, which is called 100 Days, 100 Chairs with the Waste of London. So he was walking around London, and he just what he found on the streets, what people throw away. He did 100 chairs.
Wow.
And then he became from wallpaper. He got nominated as the most sustainable designer in the world at that time. And I said to him, "Hey, listen, Martino, I would like to have a living room in the mountain," which is very difficult when you see because it's all glass. And I would love to have the philosophy of cook the mountain in the design. And he started to do renderings, and he took the stube, we say stube, from the mountains from all over the world. So from Asia, from Japan, from China, from South America, from North America. And he did some renderings, and he built up the restaurant. And it's really amazing because I can point the finger where all the products come from, where all the materials come from what we built it in there. And the same thing what I can do with the cheese producer, with the vegetable producer, with the butcher, with all this. So you really stay there. And the biggest problem for us was water, because we stay on 2,300 meters over the sea level. And I did the calculation. We were supposed to bring up 35 or 36,000 bottles of water for the winter season with the trucks, and then again down. I said, no, I'm not going to do this. And so we started to work with the concept, which is called the BWT, Best Water Technology. So we take the water from the mountain. We have the small source. We clean it. We mineralize it. Then we sell it. But we give 50 cents per liter in a project, which is, and they're drilling for water in the poorest countries in the world. And so we have not one bottle of mineral water up there. But now people are getting really into it. And we have also for this place, we have a totally, the waste concept there.
We are the only species on Earth that generate waste. It's like how... I just think that we've designed waste into our lives. We now need to design it out, and it's not that hard.
Our job as cooks is to serve delicious food, and if you know where it's come from, like it's quite simple. If you pick a herb and eat it, it's never going to taste any better. Like if you pick herbs and put it in a plastic bag and truck it around and refrigerate it and leave it in your fridge, and it has all of this movement, it lacks flavour. So for me, all of this stuff leads to better tasting food, and it's quite simple.
Yeah, I love the idea of growing something and being a part of every process of it, and having it's just pure and natural and not complicating it by, like Matt said, trucking it around, or, it tastes like where you are. I think that's the most important thing, especially with diners, and when you turn it into something like commercial or a restaurant, people want to come and eat that area and try what that area has to offer, rather than going to every restaurant everywhere that has the same thing on every menu. It's not really what dining is about. It's meant to be about that region. I think Italy does it really well because every region is different. I think Australia is huge and we have many different regions, but when kind of sometimes don't follow through with, being proud of what our little areas can do, we should really encourage that rather than a chicken parma everywhere. Or chicken schnitzel or whatever.
Well, you're absolutely right what you said. I was really fed up of going around the world and eating always the same product, because in the end of the day, it's this. And, what I said before is I think especially when you have kids, you start to thinking in a different way. And also what Matt said is, when you have the products, when you pick them in the right time, right moment, then you have the best taste. You don't need strawberries the whole year round. You eat the strawberries when the strawberries are there and when they're really good. And so that's why it makes also food much more interesting than just flying in everything. So, but I think we are in a good way. And so especially with products, also with what you are doing there, it's fantastic.
Hey, Norbert, can you tell us about your latest project, care project?
Well, we started in 2015 with a project which is called the Ethical Chef Days, CARES. And what we are doing there is, I did another event before which was called Chef's Cup, and there we did around in 10 years around 600,000 euros of a donation. But now we are doing more scholarships for young people. So we have mostly young people, and we invite chefs from all over the world with projects, always with projects which are going sustainable. So like we had Pedro Miguel Schiaffino and people like this, and always with very interesting projects from which are really part of the culture from where people are and from where they are. And we have always speakers. We go out of the kitchen. It's not just the kitchen anymore. So like the speaker last year was Yvon Chouinard. He's the owner and the founder of Patagonia, and he told us what he was doing in his company when he started to do sustainability, when he was started to work in a different way. And so it's built up like this. And as I said, every year we are trying to really bring young people, to give young people a platform, and especially young people with a sustainable project. So this is very important.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah.
We love Patagonia too, don't we, Matt?
Yeah, he's an amazing guy. He's really amazing, and I had the great honor to spend with him more than one day. And we were talking about, and he's 83 years old, and then in the afternoon, we were there for 4 or 6 hours talking together. Then he said, "Hey, Norbert, we have to start a food revolution." I said, "Come on, you're 50, you're 83 years old. I don't care. We have to do something. We have to do something for the future." And it's amazing. It's a great guy and a really personality. And he showed us, that you can also do a big company, making also money, because it's also necessary to make money, but having sustainable ideas. And so this shows us that you can do.
Yeah. I love that idea. I think that's what this house has done for us, given us hope. Like what Joost has produced is hope that you can actually build a house like this and live like this, but then do it in the middle of the city. So it's actually empowering, like the spread is really big, that it starts to empower people, and I don't know, people feel pretty hopeless about that kind of thing.
So I spend a lot of time talking to school kids. I try and go to a school on a regular basis and talk to kids, and I think around 2016 and 17, it was really, I remember coming back from a school thinking, wow, that was really difficult, because there was a sense of hopelessness from kids that the problem is so big. I remember going to one school in particular, and it was like about 350 kids. So it was a big audience. And at the end of it, I was completely drained, because I was trying to give these kids hope that they had an opportunity to actually fix and change. And I think there's a little girl in Sweden called Greta Thunberg that was a catalyst that actually changed suddenly around the world. Not just thousands of people, but millions of kids started protesting. It's a really exciting time.
Well, I think we have to start, especially with the young kids, with the really little kids, because they got such a great palate. They got a really clean palate. And they know a lot. I see it with my little son. He's 2.5 years old, and you see how delicate the palate is from them. And they don't need any sweetness, because the only sweetness what they have, or what they are used to have, is the fat in the mother milk, and there's not so much in. And so all the cookies we give them, they don't need them.
Yeah.
If they don't have them, you don't take away anything from them. If you just don't start, and I'm always really fed up of when you see products, there's no stabilizing, no this, in, but then you read and you have so much sugar in, because it's the same thing, it's a form of conservation. So that's why, and we should really start to work in the kindergartens with the kids. And then they could start to educate the parents at home.
We have a really amazing, it's like Alice Waters in America. We have a woman here called Stephanie Alexander. And she, about 25 years ago, started a program in schools where you had a garden and a kitchen. And that's program's now 25 years old. And there's, I think, something like 80,000 kids using it every day, which is fantastic, and it's schools all over Australia. But they asked the first group that's 25 years ago, to write about that first year, the very first group, and those people are now in their early 30s. And those letters are so powerful because they showed how much it meant to these kids to grow something, harvest something, and cook something. Because for many of them, it was the very first time that they'd ever pulled a carrot out of the ground, or that they'd ever made a basil pesto, or they, made something from scratch. And, I really hope that, I know that Alice is trying to do that in America, trying to make people understand that when you make food from scratch, when you grow something, you get a connection and you get an understanding of that food that it's impossible to get that any other way.
Oh, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Well, actually, that's one of our biggest questions is when people come in, because it's a home, they say, how can we be more sustainable at home? But then we're also, because we're feeding 14 people, we're getting a lot of hospitality people in as well. And they're asking how do they become more sustainable in like a larger restaurant situation. And Joost did it with brothel and with silo, and we continued on with that at our last restaurant, Oak Ridge. But what do you say to people when they ask, not so much at home, but with restaurants, how do you become more sustainable? Like one thing that can help.
Well, I think the most important thing is that you talk about the pocket, about the money. Because, most of the people, they say always, when you go to a local farmer, when you go to a farmer's market, the products are too expensive. And it's not true, because, we know today that from 30 to 60% of the products which we buy or which people buy, they get thrown away. Because, you go to the supermarket and then you buy. And also the packaging, is sometimes like this, that you have maybe 7 or 8 tomatoes, but it's 2 people and you don't need 7 or 8 tomatoes, and you have them in the fridge, and then, they go, those are bad. And so, but then when you explain them, hey, listen, when you spend 20% more on a farmer's market and you don't throw away anything, then you still save a lot of money. And so this is what I try to do. And then they started to think, he said, yeah, well, you're right, because I know, we are doing very often caterings also in private houses. And sometimes when I open up the fridge there, I said, what the hell is going on here? They can feed, I don't know how many people there for, I don't know for how much time, but they have the products in there and frozen there. And I think, just when you start to let them try, what we started to do was really, we have a great team. So we do a lot of talking in the kitchen. We have 2 meetings every day. We have a meeting in the morning where with the service and with the kitchen, and we bring also the service out, and they do foraging with us. They go and they see what we are going to do, and they do a great storytelling. And so this is very important. People, you have to bring people in these projects, because otherwise they don't understand. Some of them, they don't understand it.
People are definitely utilising more of the whole vegetable and whole animal, and using cuts of meat and poultry and fish that they wouldn't usually have used, rather than, secondary cuts or buying in whole animals. And I think people are actually just searching for more options. People want to be more sustainable, but they're not sure how to. Yeah, for sure. I don't know. What do you reckon?
I think people question where things are from more than ever. They're asking, where's that asparagus from? It's not in season. Looking at the packaging things come in, taking their own bags to the shop rather than getting plastic bags. I think all of these really small changes have a huge effect, and it becomes contagious. Once you do one thing and you get comfortable with it, then you do the next thing, and before you know it, you're having a really big change. So I think people are more conscious than ever, which is it's exciting.
I think people are conscious now, are more conscious, and we just have to go on and to explain them why we are doing this, what is this, and obviously also the media helps a lot, because when there's a lot of people that go in also in places like this because it's fancy, but then I say, okay, on one side is not good, but on the other side, then you start to have a movement, and the movement get bigger and bigger and bigger. So I think this is what we have to do.
Norbert, how long have you been working with Miele?
With Miele, I think 10 years now.
What was the catalyst for your collaboration?
I liked always the brand, because I think it's very, very a great brand, and especially also the way of thinking also in with the low temperature, with low consume of energy, and they were always very, very focused on getting new technologies. And so this is what really is interesting, and which is amazing. And so that's why, I mean, for us, if you want to change something, you have to change with the big ones, because they have the numbers, and they have, and so that's why it's great. But it's very difficult to find a brand which got so much success, which starts really to think in a new way, and to think really in a sustainable way for the future. Because otherwise, most of the people, they say, okay, well, we are good, why should we change? But I think we have to change, and this is what I like with Miele, because also with all the discussions about what we have sometimes, or with the things what we are talking about, especially with trying to use as little energy as possible. This is, I think, what really helps for the future, and also with the whole water, because these are the big problems.
I think the plate warming drawer is one of the most versatile pieces of equipment ever. I think for dehydrating, for fermenting, also warming plates, of course, but to be able to have an environment that's a regulated temperature, it's got a timer, it's convenient, it's under, in a place where would normally be just some storage or nothing at all. So I think that's a really useful tool.
Yeah, and I've been using the dryer function on the oven a lot to be, preserving a lot of our fruit and herbs, and like what you were saying before about having a glut of produce at one time. It's not that it trickles in slowly. It's there, and you have to deal with it. So I've been drying a lot of things and then using them as powders, or to sweeten as well, which has been really handy. If you use cutting edge technology, it makes your life a lot easier. So by using things that are like, you can type in a function, it actually makes your life a lot easier to spend the time, if you're growing a garden, to be in the garden and then utilizing it really well. Like, you're going to see through the whole process, because you know that your dish or what you're cooking is going to turn out, because there's nothing that could go wrong throughout the way that is human error, like only human error could. So I think technology in that regard is really important.
What's really interesting at the moment is we've got this transition, especially in Australia. We've got 2.5 million houses now covered with solar panels, which is the most percentage of the population of any country in the world. And we are starting to have an oversupply of energy in the middle of the day. And it's happening more and more regularly. We're often generating much more energy than we actually use. And what's so great about new technology is you can have a dishwasher, washing machine, dryer, and actually connect those two technologies, so that when you're dumping power, your batteries are full, you've got excess power, you can actually do those things that actually can draw power, so you can actually do the drying, you can do the washing, you can do the dishwashing in the middle of the day and not even be home. And that, to me, is a really exciting proposition, because if you times that by tens of millions of households, you're talking about a huge amount of energy that potentially can be saved. And as we now are heading to, in Australia, 3 million homes being covered with solar, and they're saying we could hit 5 million homes, which is 50% of houses, in as little as 3 years. We're going to have a massive amount of oversupply of energy, and this technology is going to be much more important. The reason that I'm so fond and so connected to the Miele brand is really because of my uncle, who had a business in Holland that was repairing and selling secondhand Miele equipment. And when Jenny and I moved out of our house, we bought a 17-year-old washing machine that was a Miele washing machine. And then we had that for another 15 years, and then I gave that to my brother. When we moved into our house, we bought a new Miele washing machine. But the idea that you can buy something that can be repaired is really important. And it's not just about white goods, it's for anything, and the Victorian government here is actually looking at changing the law so that you can no longer sell something that can't be repaired, because the amount of waste that's being generated is now so immense that we can't deal with it. And everything is designed to be able to be pulled apart, repaired and replaced. And that, if we all design things like that, and we all design equipment that could be repaired and last a long time, we would have a lot less waste.
Well, you know what you said is absolutely right, but I think also all the programs what you can have, what you can put on the oven with your phone in the future, and you can put on the washing machine with your phone, and so this helps also a lot to save energy and also maybe to help cookies. So you really can go out and you can do sport and stuff like that, and you come back in 1 hour and you have the dishes ready. And so this is really interesting. As we said before, you know, we are not going to invent anything new in the kitchen, because all those things have already been done. We just have to use them in an intelligent way, and also with using the technology in an intelligent way. And so this is really what Miele was doing in the last decades and really pushing hard, and, you know, bring the newest technology where you can save energy, and especially what Joost said, what I didn't know, that in Australia you're allowed just to sell product which can be repaired. This should be a law all over the world. So, because otherwise, you know, people are throwing things away. And so, but this is a great thing. This is really great. And so this helps a lot. And technology really helps. And also that the product that you are not using them, Miele product, for a couple of years, and then you throw them away, but you can repair them, and they can go on for years and years and years, and maybe pass also in the family, as you said.
Yeah. Hey, can you set up a restaurant here in Mount Buller?
Pardon?
Can you come to Australia and set up the restaurant here on the mountain in Mount Buller?
Yes, absolutely.
The snow, the
this is
skiing is
great.
amazing.
Yeah. So next time when it works out, I invite you for cares.
Hey, so we had the best snow season too last year, but the same problem. No one could go. So
Yeah.
Maybe you have to do a different concept of cook the beach.
cook the beach.
Well, we are working on a concept now which is called Cook the Lagoon.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, we're doing it in Venice. And it's funny because then you take the same rules what you have for Cook the Mountain, but you're using just the products from the lagoon. So this is it's quite amazing.
Wow.
It's quite interesting, and you can do the same things. You know, this is the fun thing, because when you start to think in this way, then you really can keep culture and maintain the culture. This is maintain also old traditions, and this is very interesting, because I think this is the interesting part, because otherwise it really comes out what you said before, that you are flying around the world and you eat in every city the same products, you know, because everybody does the foie gras, everybody does the lobster, everybody does this. And so in this way, you really, also the traveling, it's much more, because then you see the cultures and you see also the tradition. This is fantastic.
Yeah, I love that idea.
Hey, thanks so much for your time, Norbert. And
thank you. Thanks
good luck.
a lot.
And let's hope we can actually physically meet each other one day
see
soon.
you.
Yeah, we'd love to come and see you.
We'd love to have you here.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
More than happy to come back to Australia, because I was just once there.
We have a bedroom here for you anytime.
Cool.
Thanks, mate.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.